Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the new DJI FPV. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, and especially if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering what all the hype is about. This drone has been long awaited for the drone community and especially the FPV community. So now that it's finally here, I know a lot of people are really excited to get their hands on it. And I'm also excited about it, but there are a few issues with it that I have that I just wanted to talk about really quickly in this video. So I've been flying FPV for about a year now, and I really wish that this had come out about a year ago, because then I would have bought it. In my opinion, this feels more like a beginner FPV drone than something that professional FPV pilots will be using. But this is all speculation, and I'm not entirely sure if that will be the case. So the reason I say it's a beginner FPV drone is because it seems like a really good way to get into the hobby without having to do any soldering or building your actual quad. It's a really easy way to basically just get the drone and get it up in the air as fast as possible. Even with a drone like this, which I bought pre-built, I still had to plug it into Betaflight and get a bunch of connections done and make sure that each prop was spinning the right direction. So there was still a little bit of stuff that I had to do with this, even though it came entirely pre-built. Where with the DJI FPV, there's none of that. You can literally get it in the box and send it up 5 minutes after you get it all set up. So just to get this out of the way, I think the biggest reason that I have an issue with this drone is the price. It's about $1,300 US for the entire combo, which comes with goggles, a controller, and the actual drone. And then obviously you get an extra battery and some extra propellers as well, which honestly isn't that bad of a price. But when you compare that to how many times you're going to be crashing this drone, it's kind of ridiculous. If you're paying for DJI care every single time, that's going to add up, and you only get what, like 2 refreshes every year? So if you crash this drone twice, you're kind of screwed. A typical FPV drone will be relatively cheap, super durable, and relatively cheap to fix. I think I bought my drone for about $250, and I've crashed it probably 10 to 15 times, and I'm still able to use it. Like if I break a rotor, I can just buy a new replacement part for $20 on teamblacksheep.com and get one sent to me in a week, and I can have it back up in the air as soon as a week and a half. Where with the DJI drone, you have to send it into DJI because DJI drones are extremely complex, and your average drone pilot can't just figure it out. Maybe there's some people out there that can, more power to you, but I cannot. I wouldn't be able to fix that. There's no way. But I am able to fix this, surprisingly. They're pretty simple to put together once you know what each component does. And I think that is my biggest issue with the DJI drone, is just how hard it will be to fix. I've seen so many photos of these things just busted to heck. And it's only been out for like 4 or 5 days now. Like not that long at all. My theory is people are going to get the drone, not know how to fly FPV, and just switch it into FPV mode and see if they can do it and end up just destroying the thing because it's that difficult. It took me 3 months on a simulator to finally get the hang of FPV. It wasn't like I just got outside and flew. Like I sat on a computer for 3 months until I even took a drone outside. I think that's a big problem with this. I think people think that they're just going to be able to buy the drone and then fly FPV. That's not how it works at all. It's a process, and it's definitely a really big learning curve, and I think a lot of people aren't going to understand that. Another issue that I have with it is the stabilization. Obviously, it's the same stabilization as their action cameras, which is really good, but in my opinion, that's not the look that I'm going for when I'm flying an FPV. I would much rather strap a GoPro to my drone and then edit it in post-processing in an app called RealSteady. That's the look that I'm going for when I'm flying FPV. I don't want to rely on the in-camera stabilization because it's not always going to get those little bumps out. And FPV is a pretty bumpy ride. It's not always going to be smooth, and especially starting out, your footage isn't going to look as clean and as crisp as you actually want it to. But saying this, I'm unsure if you're actually able to take the DJI footage and put it into RealSteady. That would be interesting and that might change my mind if you are able to do that. But right now I'm not sure. Alright, with all of this said, I actually really like this drone, and I think it's a huge step forward for the FPV world, given that the battery life is 20 minutes compared to 4, which is what I get in my batteries, compared to the range, which is way better than what I get on my drones. It seems like it's made out of a more durable material, and I actually really like the way that the camera is protected by a thick layer of plastic. I also really like the switch from analog to OcuSync, which I fly with analog, and these are my goggles. These are analog, which is the video transmission feed, to OcuSync, which is what DJI uses, which basically gives an HD output through the goggles and gives a better image, but it has a tiny little bit of latency, where analog doesn't have that bit of latency. The only thing is OcuSync is only going to get better, where analog has kind of plateaued to how good it is and how good the quality is. OcuSync still has some room to grow. So I'm excited to see where that goes, because I think in the future all FPV drones will be used under that system. I'm also really excited to see if professional FPV pilots switch over to this system, because I'm guessing if you step into this system with prior knowledge to FPV, you'll be way better off, and you'll definitely be able to get a lot better footage, in my opinion. I'm also really excited to see all the shots that everyone's going to be able to get with these, because it really does change the game. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that these drones are only going to get better. And I think the fact that DJI was able to come out with something that's so intuitive is really impressive. I'm really glad that DJI did come out with this drone, because it means a lot more people are going to be getting into the FPV world, which is really exciting because it's such a fun hobby, and I think more people need to do it. It does take a lot of patience, and it does take a long time to get to a certain level, because there is that steep learning curve, but it's definitely worth it. So if you are thinking about getting into FPV, I think this is a great way to do it. I just would also caution you about flying it in FPV mode too soon, because it's a big step from a typical Mavic drone. It's a lot different. It's a lot different. That's all I have to say. All in all, I'm mostly just really curious what happens, because this is really exciting for FPV, and a lot of good can come from it. There's a little bit of bad. I think the worst is just going to be a lot of broken drones. But that's to be expected when people will get into a hobby and they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. So we'll see what happens. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you guys watching, and if you stuck around to the end, be sure and hit subscribe, because I'm going to be posting weekly content for the next foreseeable future. Hope to see you guys in the next video, and I will talk to you later. Bye. I've switched FPV and DJI like 100 times in this video, and I just cannot figure it out.